We're delighted to welcome Eric Ching today. Eric, tell us where you're running, what you're running for, and how you got into this politics game.
Sure. Yes, I'm running at the 38th Congressional District. That's southeast of Los Angeles County. I only have one city in Orange County. So if you take this freeway, this 605, 60 freeway, you go all the way to 57 and from there south. So if you live in that area, I wanted to represent you. The reason why I'm doing this is I serve as a council member and mayor in City of Walnut for 10 years. In our city, we don't have one pothole, but we can finance, finance is great, but one of the safest and most livable city in California, or if not the whole country. So I want to take my experience to Washington. And, I met with many congressional members, but if you ask them any serious question, except for Jennifer, to be one, that they really don't understand what it means for local, folks, just regular folks. I think, we want safety, we want good education, we want good economy. And then I have experience in those. And especially last year, I'm a God-loving Christian. I heard a call. So this is what I'm doing now, 100%. I would not be able to face Lord, if I don't do this.
And it's nice to chat with you, Mayor Ching. I want to ask you, it sounds like you've done a great job as mayor of your city for a while. What on the national scope becomes the most priority? So you've been handling things locally, but what is it that national issue that Congress could vote on that would improve the life of your constituents today?
Sure. I think Congress can, allocate resources. So I think one thing we need to do is address some of the crime issues. And the state of California is not helping us, not even in county. So I want to do something about that. And I definitely don't want to see kids continue to see pornography and, sex education is some of the most progressive agendas. And I do believe that Congress should have more stable environment for businesses. Business can operate this way. But look at, our port of Long Beach, look at our transportation, look at our gas price. That's what drive up the whole cost for our country. So I think there's a lot, Congress can do. And I think that I wanted to, when they get there, I want to speak to my colleagues and then tell them that some of the things they're doing would not benefit, local folks, regular folks.
Right. You can say that again. Eric, can you talk a little bit about how your background kind of informs your politics and how you approach things? Because we hear all the time about, the Democrats and sort of diversity and all the rest of it. But I think it's really interesting to see that on the Republican side, you've just got, that's where it seems to me there's a lot of energy in terms of people from all backgrounds now running for office. I'd love you to talk about that and how it's really shaped you.
Sure. A few years ago, I was an independent. I never thought that I would be joining any political party. But this is my fourth year. I came over here from Taiwan. The moment I landed, I'm a legal immigrant, but, I know I have to work hard. I didn't speak much English, so I went to Omaha, Nebraska, and then studied English for a year and a half. And then my first job was dishwashing. I watched that for, a whole year. And then slowly I worked into our society, and then I opened my first company when I was 20, about 20-year-old. But I didn't know what I was doing. And in my mid-20s, I opened my second company. I had it ever since last year. So I just know that I need to contribute, work hard, blend in. And that's what I believe. And when I look around, when I first got here, people will say hi, your neighbors will say hi to each other. And then, they even bring food and then cut, each other's grasses, right? You don't have to look hard. When I was in Nebraska, I remember that, I'm known for the whole block, entire block. We all know each other. That's such a good way to live. And look at now, when you disagree with your neighbors and they won't talk to you anymore, they call you by names. And then what about, I remember Reagan years or even earlier than that people, even with different in politics, they can still be friends. And Democrat will be working with the Republicans. Now it's just so far to, I think, the progressive left. Had some of them live in other countries, they will understand what it means by it's just wrong and going to a place they wanted to go. So I can just tell you this.
Now, your political ideology, I think it's interesting to see people who are running for Congress for the first time. I think you're either compelled to be the fighter, push the party agenda at all cost, or be someone who calls to bring Democrats and Republicans together. Now, we expect that there will probably be more Republicans and Democrats in the House after the general election in November. But speak about your ideology. Is it a little bit of both, or are you kind of push kind of the agenda, more of the MAGA style, or are you more of the Mitt Romney style that wants to bring everyone together to work in unity?
Well, I'm definitely not Mitt Romney. I believe in more core values, but I do believe that we have to work within somehow. Right? We can start with some of the most important things, like what I said. But I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian on fire. I can tell you this. So that there are more things that's more dear to me, but those things will take more time, longer time. But I do believe in core family values. I don't want mom to be called a birthing person. I don't want to see pornography, as I said. I want community to be safe. So those are, I believe, not just Republican values. Those are just regular. That's core value for every family. I mean, you cannot have kids, and then to be pushed to change their sex, and then parents will be responsible for that, right? So, the last few months, I spoke to tens of thousands of people already. When I spoke to them, I went to LA County Fair. I walked the streets, and I walked the neighborhoods. I would say that more than 90% agree with this core value. So I think, people start waking up. I mean, in the past, they perhaps go along their party line. But this time, I think, is a big difference when you point it out. Say, hey, open your eyes, open your heart, and open your ears. They can see.
Yeah, I think that's very that's lovely to hear. I love the way you've been talking about all this. I just want one last question from me, Eric, which is I see that one of the things you say about yourself is that you're a mental health advocate. That's something we've been talking about a lot in the light of the terrible shootings in Texas. I mean, just explain what you mean when you say you're a mental health advocate and how you think about that as part of your role in society.
Sure. When this is specifically about, I want to address the homelessness issues. In LA County alone, based on the sheriff's statistics, 70% of them, they either have mental illness issues or addiction issues. So 2 years ago, I gathered some friends. We opened a treatment center. Because if you don't treat the core values, how can they get better? They're not going to get better by giving them housing, food, or supplies. You just encourage them to do something else. So we started that treatment center. In fact, we have altogether 3 centers now that we want to treat people to get them back to work. I mean, without that, how can they get better? Like I said, but sadly, it took us 2 years to get our license. I would think that when we started state of California, we wanted to help us because we truly want to help people, not making profit. So I think in our policy making that we should allow this kind of business to open more instead of open a marijuana joint, or liquor store in places like that. That's not helping our society. So that's what I mean by mental advocate. I want people to get better by treating them.
I love that you talk about mental health. It's one of the hardest things I think that our elected officials have to do, and certainly it's a huge catalyst about what we could do to fix the homeless crisis. I do want to just circle back from my last question from what Steve had asked you, and that is, Mayor, you think what's the one thing that we could do today to improve the situation, the odds that we don't see these massive school shootings again? Is it whether that's something to do with guns, whether it's something to do with your specialty of mental health? Is there something that Congress could do if you go there in November to make this a little less likely to happen? It seems it's just happening way too much.
Well, I think, first we have to be tough on crime. I believe, I don't believe in, there is a mercy, right? But I think, if you don't deal with the criminals, they're always going to come out and do what they do, right? Instead of California, LA County, you just keep on releasing the criminals. I wanted to know that there is a consequences to what they do, right? So that's one deterrence. If you look at, we can learn a few things from other countries, maybe Singapore, for example. Well, that's one of the safest nation in the whole entire world. How did they do it? We can learn a few things. they're tough on crime, yes, but afterwards, people understand there is certain limitations of what you can do, and then people will fall in line. So I'm sure that they're, I don't believe in letting criminals go without consequences. That's for sure.
You sound like very much like a classic traditional conservative to me in many ways, Eric. And I think that another way of putting that, especially about the specific things you've talked about, is just very practical, common sense approaches to things. And I think that is much needed right now. It was really great to have you join us today, Eric. Could you let everyone know where they can go to find out more about your campaign if they want to get involved?
Yes, that's Eric Ching for Congress.com. That's EricChingfor Congress.com. I'd love for you to join me to jump into this. I believe we will take this seat, not just this seat. I wanted to change our country because every time when I salute to my flag, our flag, it almost brings me some tears because this is still one nation under God, and we better believe that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Eric. Great to see you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.